The telemetry data never lies, and journalist Ralph Bach has just confirmed what Max Verstappen's furious expression already broadcasted to the entire paddock. The RB22 is operating a staggering 22 pounds over the minimum weight limit. In Formula One, where every single gram is worth its weight in gold,
at the minute, or do you think it's more circuit-specific?
Concerned. I mean, I can be concerned about it, but it's not going to change anything, right? So I'm not concerned about it. We just work as a team to try and close that gap, and step by step, of course, hopefully we can be more competitive.
All right, thanks, Max. Cheers.
This translates to a massive performance deficit of nearly 0.3 of a second per lap. Imagine the nightmare scenario. Max was slicing through the field like a great white shark, but he was doing it with a literal anchor bolted to his chassis. If that car had been at the ideal weight, he wouldn't have just struggled to a 6th-place finish. He would have absolutely devoured Lando Norris's Ferrari for breakfast. This is a technical humiliation of the highest order. How did the engineering team that dominated the previous regulations completely forget how to put their car on a diet for 2026? This massive oversight in carbon fiber layup and component packaging has effectively neutered the greatest driver on the grid before the lights even went out. Beyond the weight penalty, Verstappen was wrestling with a temperamental battery unit from the very first moments of the formation lap. The car virtually blacked out at the start due to a pathetic energy deployment strategy that nearly triggered a multi-car pileup reminiscent of rush hour gridlock. It was a total embarrassment. While the rookie Isaac Hadjar was pulling away at the front, Max was left eating dust and battling a hybrid system that felt like a computer from 1990 trying to run a high-end modern simulator. The power delivery was inconsistent, leaving him defenseless on the straights and destroying his tire management strategy as he had to overdrive the car just to maintain position. We are talking about a complete lack of synchronization between the internal combustion engine and the MGUK, leading to clipping at the end of every major straightaway. When your power unit starts fighting the driver, you know the championship defense is in serious jeopardy. If you thought the atmosphere in the garage couldn't get any more toxic, brace yourself for this bombshell. Less than 24 hours after the fiasco in Australia, Max announced he will compete in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, wearing a Mercedes racing suit. Yes, you heard that correctly. He is going to pilot a Mercedes-AMG GT3 at the Green Hell. This is a calculated slap in the face to the Red Bull hierarchy. Even though this is an independent operation with Red Bull branding, seeing the team's greatest asset-seeking refuge with the 3-pointed star just to have some fun is a maximum-level red alert. It signals a complete breakdown in trust. Is Max testing the waters for a future move, or is he simply showing the world that he'd rather be anywhere else than in a failing RB22? Mercedes has officially resurrected the ghost of 2014 with a humiliating 1-2 finish by George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, but the glitter of the trophy is being completely eclipsed by a dark cloud of suspicion. While Toto Wolff smiles like someone who saved the finest vintage for the grand finale, the paddock is boiling over with rage. McLaren and Williams are currently leading an open revolt.
Who's going to be the biggest threat to victory today?
Well, I think Ferrari can start anywhere in the top 10 and they'll probably be leading by turn 1, so we need to keep our eyes out for them. They're a rocket off the line.
Accusing the German manufacturer of withholding vital technical data regarding the new power unit's integration. The rumor circulating the high-stakes tables of the Paddock Club is that Russell's absurd performance gap doesn't just stem from a well-designed chassis, but from a top-secret breakthrough in fuel compression ratios and thermal efficiency. Toto Wolff, with that classic cynicism of a man who knows he holds all the aces, claims rivals will feel ashamed once the full truth comes to light. However, the reality is that McLaren and Williams feel utterly betrayed, operating in total darkness while the factory team disappears over the horizon. This isn't just a gap, it's a technical execution. Even from the top step of the podium, George Russell didn't sound celebratory, he sounded terrified. The new straight-line mode has transformed these machines into unstable projectiles. Russell described the sensation as a dangerous yo-yo effect. You gain raw, brutal velocity, but the aerodynamic map shifts so violently that you lose all front-end grip. It is exactly like trying to pilot a massive rocket using a broken video game controller. The physical toll is reaching a breaking point. Fernando Alonso reportedly suffered from severe vibration-induced disorientation that bordered on neurological distress, and Oscar Piastri became a mere passenger in his own high-speed accident. We are seeing a deployment of energy so aggressive that the chassis can't keep up with the torque delivery. The drivers are no longer racing. They are simply trying to survive the mechanical turbulence of a design that prioritizes spectacle over safety. Toto Wolff's post-race statement dropped like a fragmentation bomb within the Grand Prix Drivers Association. While Lando Norris officially classified these new cars as the worst in history and completely artificial, Wolff simply shrugged his shoulders. He boldly claimed that the only metric that truly matters is whether the fans are being entertained. It is a dangerous, high-stakes game of chess. Mercedes is defending this chaos because they are the only ones currently mastering it. For Toto, if there were 75 more overtakes than last year, any concerns about driver safety or technical transparency are just minor details. He is effectively telling the grid to deal with it, while Mercedes builds a monopoly on the new regulations. Is this the beginning of another decade of silver dominance? Or is the sport heading toward a catastrophic failure of trust between the manufacturers and the athletes? Andrea Stella has just dropped a nuclear-level bombshell that exposes a bleeding wound in the new 2026 technical regulations. According to the McLaren team principal, they are heading onto the track in a desperate state of trial and error, completely locked out of the vital simulation maps that the Mercedes factory team possesses. In modern Formula One, if you are not simulating with precision, you effectively do not exist.
I mean, I think it's about where we thought we would be. Obviously behind the two Mercedes, it's pretty close. So it's not a huge surprise that we are where we are. I think it went reasonably smoothly out there today. I think we executed mostly pretty good. So I can't complain from that side, but obviously we need to find a bit of time.
Stella was categorical. For the first time in the history of this partnership, the team feels physically handcuffed, utterly incapable of predicting how the chassis will react to the power delivery. It is as if Mercedes provided the hardware, but encrypted the software with a password only Toto Wolff and his inner circle know. This isn't just a minor technical gap, it is a fundamental breakdown of competitive integrity. Without those predictive engine maps, McLaren is essentially flying blind at 200 miles per hour. The lack of transparency has turned their engineering department into a guessing game, where every setup change is a shot in the dark. Technically, the situation is far more sinister than it appears on the surface. The 2026 power unit depends on a millimeter-perfect integration between the internal combustion engine and the electrical energy deployment from the battery. If McLaren does not know exactly when and how the Mercedes engine will unleash its torque, they cannot calibrate the suspension geometry or manage tire degradation. The result is catastrophic. Lando Norris is transformed into a high-priced passenger, while other Mercedes-powered customer cars were reduced to mere backmarkers, being lapped by George Russell. The discrepancy is so absurd that the entire paddock is whispering the unthinkable. Has Mercedes deliberately nerfed the energy deployment? Maps for their customers to ensure no one casts a shadow over the silver arrows? When you see a factory car pulling away with such ease while the customers struggle with basic drivability, you have to wonder if the playing field has been tilted by a digital throttle. Andrea Stella admitted that McLaren is on a learning curve that is miles behind the works team. That is a massive understatement. It is a polite way of saying they have been thrown to the lions. Without access to the predictive telemetry data, McLaren's engineers have no starting point for their development cycle. This is the black box effect. You can see the raw potential of the engine in your neighbor's garage, but you don't have the key to unlock the power in your own. They are being starved of the information needed to compete, forced to watch from the sidelines as the factory team dominates the new era of the sport. It is a strategic isolation that could ruin McLaren's entire championship campaign before the summer break. The seven-time world champion was surgical in his assessment. Mercedes did not simply find 0.8 of a second in their racing suit pocket overnight. Lewis Hamilton has pointed his finger directly at a massive scandal involving engine compression ratios, suggesting that the Federal Internationale de l'Automobile is turning a blind eye to an irregularity that could decide the World Championship before the European winter even begins. The technical bombshell is complex, but the damage is easy to understand. The 2026 regulations strictly mandated a compression ratio of 16.1, yet rumors indicate Mercedes has found a thermal cheat code. They pass the official inspections at ambient temperature, but once the power unit reaches racing heat on the track, the physics shift and the horsepower skyrockets illegally. Hamilton was emphatic. If the governing body only tightens inspections in June, Mercedes will have 7 races to build an insurmountable lead. They are effectively winning by exploiting a loophole while the officials remain silent. While the technical controversy burns, Juan Pablo Montoya, who has never been one to sugarcoat the truth, noticed something nobody expected so soon. Hamilton completely defied logic during the race in Melbourne. He exited the pit lane a staggering 7 seconds behind Charles Leclerc and finished glued to the Monegasque driver's exhaust pipe. Montoya was blunt. When did we see Lewis do this last year? Never. The Briton looks like he is rejuvenated by 10 years, driving with a ferocity we haven't seen in half a decade. It wouldn't be a complete Australian Grand Prix without a strategic clown show from Maranello. Montoya did not hold back his criticism of Ferrari's bizarre decision-making during the virtual safety car period. While the other 10 teams acted with basic logic, Ferrari seemed lost in a labyrinth of slow reactions. If it weren't for the explosive start by Lewis and Charles, who leaped to the top at the very first chicane, Mercedes would have won by a full lap of advantage. Hamilton has already issued a stern warning. If the authorities allow this grace period advantage to continue until June, the championship will end in a technical default. Lewis is biting back, McLaren is absolutely furious, and Red Bull is keeping a very close eye on the scales. We are looking at a potential season-defining crisis where the rulebook is being treated like a suggestion rather than a law. Do you believe Mercedes is using a dirty loophole? Or is Hamilton just suffering from sour grapes because he left the team at the wrong time? Will Ferrari finally stop their strategic blunders to give their star driver a winning car? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single update.